What's going on YouTube? This is Avocados here, bringing you another episode of Through the Grapevine. And in this episode, what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at one of the big events going on in the esports world right now, and that is the Call of Duty League inaugural, wow, I cannot speak, championship. So this is going to be the first Call of Duty championship that is under the franchise league, and it's also unique because it's going to be the first big tournament for Call of Duty, first champs that's going to be completely online. This is going to be really interesting just because I know a lot of people have been complaining about LAN versus online, and to be honest, none of that even matters. You just kind of have to try to play the best to your ability, take the circumstance and try to adapt to the best as possible. And I know, like, with internet and everything, there are going to be a lot of issues in terms of connectivity, and just some of the other issues in the league that people of Octane have already kind of touched up upon. So in this video, we're going to just try to overlook all of that and just take a look at my predictions for the championship weekend. I'm planning to update, not this video, but kind of update the series through the Grapevine as Champs goes along, or I'm just going to end up making a video once Champs is all over with kind of a recap of my thoughts of the event, how smoothly it ran, the winners, just stuff like that in general. So without further ado, let's get into the predictions. So we're going to kind of go in chronological order here, and we're going to start with Elimination Round 1. So the first matchup we have here is Los Angeles Optic Gaming, LA Optic, versus Los Angeles Guerrilla. So Battle of LA happening already in the first round of the tournament. And if I'm being completely honest, ever since Hollow and Drowser were picked up by Optic, they just look completely different. They've looked a hell of a lot better, and I think they're going to take this one 3-1. LAG is a very inconsistent team. So we saw them beat FaZe one tournament, and then they placed dead last 2 tournaments in a row, I believe. So in the end, this matchup all comes down to the idea of consistency, and I just see Optic Gaming as just the more consistent team overall. The next match we have in EBR1, we have the Paris Legion versus the Seattle Surge. So Paris took second, not in the last series, but the second to last home series, where they lost in the finals against Dallas. And I believe that was a 3-1 or a 3-2. I'm not entirely sure. But one of the big things about Paris is that they've picked up, or they haven't picked up anyone, but they've switched Kismet to this kind of flex role, and he's been frying online. There've been a lot of screenshots on Twitter where he's just dropping 40 bombs in maps, and he's just going insane with the slaying. And that leads me to believe that the slaying power of Paris is definitely going to be a lot better than it was previously. So I think they're just going to be a lot better in general and a lot more consistent. And with Seattle, we've seen glimpses of greatness, right? This is a very star-studded roster, a lot of big names, but we haven't really seen anything concrete out of them just yet. We've seen glimpses, but the consistency isn't there, right? So I'm going to predict that the Paris Legion take this series 3-1. Next, we have the winners round 1 match. And I think both of these matches are pretty straightforward. We have Toronto Ultra versus London Royal Ravens as one of the first matches, and New York versus Minnesota as our other match. So I'm going to start with the Ultra Royal Ravens series first, just because I think that's a lot more straightforward. I think Ultra are going to take this one 3-2. The reason I say that is just because London is a pretty strong team. They typically go to Game 5 or Game 4 with every single top team, even sometimes beating them in these games. And so I definitely think that London have the ability to make a run. Do I see it happening in this tournament? No. Toronto are just coming off a home series win, and so they'll definitely be looking to improve upon that really, really good form that they already have. So I just don't see them losing this matchup. So I have Toronto taking it 3-2. Next, we're going to go to the New York Subliners Minnesota Rocker series. I think this is going to be another really close game just because both these teams are pretty inconsistent. Both of them are pretty middle-of-the-pack teams and have shown a lot of glimpses of greatness, but nothing really concrete to go off of. Very, very inconsistent, as I said before. So with that being said, New York has won a home series. Minnesota has not. And so I have to give New York the edge here just because they've actually shown that they are able to win, and Minnesota hasn't been able to show that capability. So I'm going to give this to the New York Subliners, and I think they're going to take this 3-2. So next we're going to move on to the Elimination Round 2. And so Optic Gaming, moving on from the first round, they're going to face up against Minnesota Rocker, and Paris is going to face off against the London Royal Ravens. So I'm going to start again with the bottom series first, just because I think it's a little bit more straightforward to predict. 2 home series ago, Paris dominated the London Royal Ravens. I think it was a 3-0 or 3-1. I don't think that same dominance is going to happen again, just because it's champs. There's $4.2 million on the line, and teams are going to be a lot more prepared, just because they want to secure the bag, right? So I think Paris still has the edge, just because they've through recency, they've shown to be the more consistent team, and I think they definitely have made a lot of improvements since Kismet has switched to this flex kind of role. So I think Paris is going to take the series 3-2 over the London Royal Ravens. Next, we go to Minnesota Rocker versus Optic Gaming, and this one is a little tricky to predict. I don't think we've seen these teams go head-to-head as of yet. So we kind of have to go based off of the recent tournament finishes. So Optic LA has gone Game 5 with Florida. They've gone Game 4 with Florida. And so the last home series, they were just double knocked out by Florida. And Minnesota has been a very, very average team, a very, very middle-of-the-pack team since they got second in that one home series a long, long time ago. So I definitely, just based off of recency, have to give the edge to Optic again. They've just shown so much improvement already just by picking up Paulo Andraza, and I think that improvement is just going to keep. They're just going to keep improving. Like, Paulo and Andraza are young guns, but we've seen the slaying potential in the plays they're able to make in tournaments. And I think just building that chemistry through time is going to be the one thing that's going to keep better. I don't see Minnesota building that same chemistry. They haven't made any roster changes except for I think they subbed in Exceed for GodRx. I don't think that's a great move at all. Even though Minnesota definitely had a pacing issue, I definitely don't think GodRx was the person to replace on that roster. So I have this going to Game 5 with LA Optic taking it 3-2. So next we're going to go to the winners round 2, where we have the Chicago Huntsmen waiting for the New York Subliners and the Florida Mutineers waiting for the Toronto Ultra. So this first matchup, Chicago versus Subliners. The Subliners have beaten Chicago recently, and the Huntsmen really have not been looking that great in my mind. Out of all the quote-unquote apex teams, or the top 4 teams, I definitely see Chicago as by far the weakest of those 4 teams. However, I do think that they will be able to edge out the Subliners just because they're going to have the element of preparation on their side. Sender is a phenomenal coach, and I think people like Envoy, Scump, Formal, all the players on Chicago just have that passion, and they really, really want to win. Do I see it panning out in the end? Not really, but I think that passion and that preparation is definitely going to be instrumental in beating New York. However, I still think it's going to go to another Game 5. I've been predicting a lot of Game 5s, but I think Chicago takes it 3-2 over the Subliners. So next we've got Mutineers versus Ultra. And if you know who I am through my streams, I am extremely, extremely biased towards Florida. But I'll say this. I did watch a little bit of Chicago streams. and Florida was obliterating them. Like, it wasn't even close. So I have to think, how much has Florida improved just from the last home series? Like, they were very mediocre. The meta change was not helping them at all. But you have to think, if they figured it out, like, they could be really nasty, and you could see them getting back to that form where they were contenders to like three-peat, which is insane. So I definitely think Mutineers are just going to take this one, and I think even though Ultra are really, really good, I don't think they have what it takes to beat any of the top 4 teams once the top 4 teams just really, really have all their stuff, all their preparation, and they just have everything firing on all cylinders. So I'm going to give this one 3-1 to the Florida Mutineers. Next, we have the Elimination Round 3. So Toronto just got knocked out, and they're going to play a pretty hot Los Angeles Optic, who have not dropped a game yet. So even though LA is going to be pretty hot and Toronto is going to be kind of a little bit on the colder side, just because I think Toronto have won the home series and LA have not. Toronto has been capable of beating multiple top 4 teams, i.e. Chicago and Atlanta. So I definitely think they are going to be a lot better than Optic, who have come very close to beating these top teams, but they haven't exactly done it yet, except for Chicago, I think. And keep in mind, Chicago is the weakest of all the top 4 teams. So I think Toronto actually edges out Optic Gaming in this one. It does go to another game 5, but I have Toronto taking it 3-2. Next, we have the Paris Legion versus the New York Subliners. Paris beat New York a couple home series ago, I believe. If I'm wrong, just fact check me, just because I honestly don't know what I'm talking about sometimes. But I just think that New York is just way too inconsistent. You win a home series. If you're in New York, you win. You should be hyped. You should be ready to cement yourself as the new addition to this top 4 kind of group, who are all contenders to win champs. And instead, you go 0-2. That inconsistency is just insane. It's just it's very hot and cold, and I think I think that Paris, with what we've kind of seen from these Twitter screenshots and stuff like that, I believe one of them was against New York, so I think they definitely have improved their slaying power enough and to find that form to upset the New York Subliners. So that's going to be the first upset that I predict, actually, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments below. But I think Paris is going to take this 3-2. So next we're going to go back to Winners Round 3. And in Winners Round 3, we have the top 4 teams finally facing off against each other. So we got FaZe versus Huntsman, and we got Dallas versus Florida. I think FaZe is just insanely talented at this game. First in the standings, like they're off the charts in terms of talent, and they have one of the best strategic minds in Crowder, and I think that definitely sets them apart from Chicago. Yes, Sender's a great coach, but I also think that something isn't quite right about the Chicago chemistry, and like they're getting slapped a lot of the time by Dallas and Atlanta, and even in scrims they're getting kind of dominated by Florida. So I can kind of see them dropping the ball a little bit in this match. So I have Atlanta taking this 3-1 over the Huntsmen. And now we go to one of the more difficult series to predict. Florida versus the Dallas Empire. So this is going to be a really tough series to predict just because both these teams have beat each other in the past. And recently it's been Dallas that's just been beating Florida 3-0, 3-1, 3-0, 3-1. And it's been pretty one-sided in Dallas' favor recently. But one of my good friends, Momo Bro, on Twitter, he always says that you should never expect one team to consistently beat the other if they're very close in skill level. And so, just with that being said, I think Florida are going to take this 3-2 over Dallas. I think they're going to figure out I think Florida's going to figure out what they need to fix, how they're going to play the meta better, and they're just going to be able to take that edge over Dallas. So now we're going to finish off a couple of elimination rounds. So in the elimination round 4, we have Chicago Huntsmen versus Toronto Ultra and Dallas Empire versus Paris Legion. So Ultra have actually beat Chicago very recently, and obviously Ultra won the last home series, so they are definitely going to be in top form. And I think Chicago are just going to be really demoralized after that phase loss. I think I think Chicago is very they really remind me of like Optic, where they come out to a great start, lose one series, and then it's just all over and it all just kind of crumbles. That being said, I do think that they're going to keep putting up a good fight against the Ultra. But I think Ultra is going to take a 3-2. And that's another big upset that I see happening in the tournament. There's always one crazy kind of run, but I don't think there's anything too crazy that's going to happen this time just because of the format. But I do think Ultra are kind of a dark horse of this tournament that can definitely take it. As far as the Dallas Empire versus Paris Legion, yes, Paris is a formidable opponent, but Dallas was just different the past couple of home series. They were frying on all cylinders. They were just insane. I think they only lost to Atlanta FaZe twice, I believe. I'm not 100% sure, but I think Dallas is still definitely like a top 3 team in the game. And no offense to Paris, but they just don't have that slaying power. They don't have like the stars on the roster needed to contend with Dallas. So I think Dallas takes this series 3-1. So next we're going to go into the Elimination Round 5. And we're going to see a rematch. Was it a rematch? I don't think so. Never mind. So we're going to see the Dallas Empire take on the Toronto Ultra. Again, I just think Dallas is going to take this 3-2. Toronto's a good team, and I think they're going to have a lot of momentum just by beating all these teams and getting this far. But I do think Dallas it's just the stars, man. Like, yes, Toronto has very talented players, but Dallas has some of the best teamwork in the game, as well as some insane players with the likes of Shotzi, Ely, and Hook. And even Clay and Krim aren't slouches either. They're champions for a reason, right? So I think Dallas is going to take this 3-2. There's going to be a lot of close series, this championships, but that's just because everything's online. You don't really know what to expect. Yeah. All right, so moving on to the winners finals. So we're going to have the Florida Mutineers taking on the Atlanta FaZe. And, a reasonable man would pick FaZe to come out on top, but I'm biased. I believe in the boys, so I think the Florida Mutineers are going to upset FaZe and take this 3-2. I think Florida definitely have what it takes to just become nasty again. And when they were really good, they were just dominating all the top teams like it was nothing. So I think Florida are going to find that spark again. They're going to have what it takes to beat FaZe. And they're going to advance to the grand finals of Call of Duty Champs 2020. Moving on to the final of the elimination round. We're going to have the Dallas Empire take on the Atlanta FaZe. It's going to be a rematch of the quarterfinals of the Toronto home series, I believe. But I am going to think that Dallas is going to beat Atlanta FaZe 3-2. I think that Dallas is a really special team. I think Shotzi's hungrier than ever to look for a second ring, first in COD. Hook and Illy are hungry players as well, and I just even though Atlanta FaZe have all this talent and all this raw gun skill, something in me just thinks that Empire is going to pull off the upset and win 3-2. It's going to be a really close slugfest of a series, but I think Dallas is going to take a 3-2. And last but not least, we're going to move on to the grand finals. So in the grand finals, I have Florida winning 5-4 over the Empire. Yeah, I may be a little bit biased, but I think the series is going to be really, really close. I think that I think that Florida is just going to find that spark again. I know I've said it before, but there was something about their little time period of dominance that was just insane. It wasn't like Huntsman or Dallas, like, and their kind of periods of just winning. It was different because Florida beat every single top team and just dismantled them 3-0 or 3-1. And it wasn't even close. They were just obliterating teams. And I think if they reach that point again, no one is going to be able to stop them. And I think, well, for me, with my bias, I think a certain man by the name of Bradley Bergstrom is going to solidify his legacy in esports with his championships. I think he's going to get his third ring and establish himself as the greatest console esports player of all time. I may be wrong, but I support the guy nonetheless. And, I tried to predict like this semi-logically, but, in the end, we all have a favorite, right? Or someone that we want to root for. And for me, Florida and Dallas are those two teams. I do love Florida a little bit more, though. So that was my predictions for the Call of Duty 2020 Championship, the inaugural franchise championship that's also going to be online. So let me know what you think. I'm interested to know what you guys think about champs. You can leave a comment below talking about maybe your just general thoughts on who's going to win, or maybe the format, what the league can do differently. And also comment down below what matches you're really, really excited for. I'm just really excited for all the top teams to go up against each other. Those are always really, really entertaining matches. But as a viewer, they're pretty stressful as a fan. But, I don't mind. It's COD Champs after all. It's a good time to be excited. And it's also a time that some people get disappointed. So yeah, this is Avocados signing off on the second episode of Through the Grapevine. I will catch you all in the next video. Peace.